Welcome back to the channel. My name's Fraser and today we're checking out the Outdoormaster Ultra ski and snowboard goggle. As one of the most highly requested reviews of the last few seasons, I was super excited to give these a go. Okay, so let's have a look at what you get in the box. So obviously you get the goggles themselves, which will naturally come with a highlight lens for those bluebird days. You'll get a microfiber carry case, which doubles up as a lens cleaner. You'll get a hard protective case, which is for carrying around your spare lens, which with most packages is for low light conditions and flat light. And then of course you get a very detailed instruction manual, which I'm sure you'll read super thoroughly. In terms of immediate impressions and value for money, you obviously get quite a lot for a package that comes in at around $129. But what about the quality? So when you first pick up the goggles, I was actually pretty surprised to find that the quality wasn't that far away from things like the Anon M4 or the Smith IO Mag. I was expecting them to feel a little bit plasticky, but actually they're really high quality build. So if you're unfamiliar with Outdoormaster, they're one of the newer brands on the market and they're aiming to bring high-end ski and snowboard tech in at a much more affordable price point. Naturally, when I first heard about this, I was a little bit skeptical, but over the last few seasons, I've tried a few of their products and for the most part, been pretty impressed. What's probably even more impressive is they're now the official sponsor of the ski and snowboard team for the USA. So they must be doing something right. For this reason, I decided to test out their flagship model, which is, of course, the Ultra. So let's take a closer look at the results. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the technology. If you're looking at the Ultra goggle, you probably already know that it features the magnetic lens changing system. But what this means is basically there's magnets all the way around the inside of the frame, and there's magnets all the way around the inside of the lens too. So when you're ready to change the lens, it should be as simple as simply dropping it into place. This means if the weather changes, if the storm rolls in, you can simply take out your highlight lens and drop in your low light lens. This is obviously much better than your traditional goggle, which means popping out the frame, trying to push the other one in, getting it wet, etc. The next thing that I was pretty impressed with is there's a very nice layer of triple foam all the way around, and there's also a cutout in the frame which allows glasses to sit in there comfortably. The venting all the way around the top and all the way around the bottom is really good, and for a goggle of this price point, it's pretty impressive. The nose notch itself is pretty wide, so even for slightly larger noses like myself, it was really comfortable. The strap is pretty wide, silicone backed, and works really well with helmets, and I'll show you that later on. In terms of the accessories, the bag's pretty handy. I won't talk about that too much. I really like the fact that they gave you a hard case, because if you're going to carry a spare lens and you're going to take a few falls, you don't want to smash it. One thing, and I'll talk about this later, but I did notice if you chuck your lens straight into the hard case, you were at risk of scratching it up a little bit, so it's probably worth sticking it in the bag first. So let's talk about how it performed. Firstly, in terms of fogging, it did really well, much better than I expected. Commonly, when you get a cheaper pair of goggles, the main thing that'll go first is the anti-fog coating on the lens. You'll then notice that it's impossible to clear, and the rest of the day, you can barely see a thing. With these, I actually managed a couple of hikes, a couple of park sessions, and even though it was a pretty hot day, they didn't fog up. The only time I did have trouble with them was I was hiking, left them on top of my helmet, vents open, and pretty much any goggle is going to struggle in those environments. Are they as good as some of the more premium brands like the Smith IO Mag or the Anon M4? Probably not quite up there, but at less than half the price, you can't really complain. Okay, so next let's talk about comfort. These things are really comfortable. I would say that they're on the slightly larger side, so they probably suit medium to large faces a little bit better. They do fit really well over glasses, so if you do ride with those, they're one of the better options. I would say that due to their slightly larger size, if you do have a smaller face, it's probably worth looking at a different option, something like the Smith IO, which I'll put in the link below. In terms of changing the lens when they're on, it's really easy and you should be able to do it with one hand, although I wouldn't recommend doing it on the chairlift. I'm gonna try now. If it doesn't work, it might be embarrassing. There we go. Now, for some reason, a couple of you asked whether you can throw the lens onto the frame. I can't think why you would need to do this, but challenge accepted, let's have a look. So other than the anti-fogging and the magnetic lens changing system, the other thing we should talk about is contrast enhancement. So most goggles these days, or at least the high-end ones, will use some sort of contrast enhancing technology. And that means that when the light's particularly low, you'll still have a good perception of the lumps, bumps, moguls, things like that. In Smith, that's called chroma pop, whereas I don't think they've got a name for what they have included in these goggles, but it does work really well. Can it compete with the likes of chroma pop? Personally, I don't think it does, but it certainly did more than well enough to suit most riders. So, as you may have guessed, I'm going to talk about helmet compatibility. Outdoormaster designed them to be compatible with a range of brands, and I tested them with Anon, Salomon and Outdoormaster helmets. They did pretty well across the range, but as you might have expected, the best compatibility was with Outdoormaster's own helmet. Having said that, whether a goggle goes with the helmet is individual, so make sure you've tried it on yourself before you buy, if possible. So if I show you, the goggles themselves fit in really nicely. This is the MIPS Diamond helmet from Outdoormaster, and it's actually the one that they've designed to fit the best with it. You can see there's no gaps in the bottom that are going to let in fog. I hope that there's no dreaded gaper gap across the top. There's no pressure points, and the straps fit nicely all the way around the back. So if you are looking for a combo, I can highly recommend the Outdoormaster combined with the Diamond MIPS helmet. And if I've got time, I'll do a review of the helmet separately, which may or may not be at the top of the screen now. So let's talk about the pros and cons of these goggles. So the first pro is obviously the price point. These, given how much tech you get, come in at one of the lowest price points on the market, and at the time of doing this video, they're about $129. Now, this isn't a sponsored video, but Outdoormaster did give me a discount code, so if you did want to get 15% off, then use the code SBDays15. That'll make them come down to near $100, which really is a bargain. The other pro is that the magnetic lens change system really surprised me. I sort of thought it was going to be a knockoff version of the Anon M4 or Anon M2, but actually it does a really good job in its own right, and it's much more secure than I was expecting. Some of you have probably wondered whether the lens can come flying off during a crash, and actually that never happened to me with these, but it did actually happen with my Anon M4. The next thing is that for your money, you're getting an extra lens, you're getting a lens case, and you're getting a carry bag, which really means you've got everything you need for your goggles this season. So in terms of the drawbacks of the goggles, I guess the first one is that in terms of colour contrast enhancing technology like Prism in Oakley or Chroma Pop in Smith, these don't quite match up. That being said, they're pretty reasonable, especially for this price point, and they'll suit most riders perfectly well. The second thing is that I do feel the lenses were slightly more liable to scratching. These are a brand new pair that I've actually got this season, but the pair that I wore last season for testing are pretty scratched up. One thing that I have learned is that if you're going to put your spare lens into the lens case, put it in the bag first, because the lens case itself can cause scratching on the inside of the hard case. So you might be wondering what your alternatives are. Well, this goggle was designed to be pitched against premium goggles like the Anon M4 or the Smith IO-Mag and Smith IO-Mag XL. The main difference is obviously that those goggles cost upwards of $300, whereas these are retailing at around $129, and there's often discount codes as well. But can they compete in terms of performance? My honest answer, if your budget is limitless, then the Smith IO-Mag XL are the way to go. They've got slightly better contrast technology, the anti-fogging is probably slightly better, and I also liked the plastic catch that they have to stop your lenses flying out if you have a particularly gnarly crash. However, if you're on a budget, if you're an average rider, your average weekend warrior, then you're probably better suited with the Outdoormaster Ultra. They're cheaper, you're going to have more money for your lift passes, and if something happens to them, then you're not going to be as worried. So in conclusion, I can highly recommend the Outdoormaster Ultra goggle. It offers one of the best bang for your buck on the market and has most of the same tech as goggles that cost double the price. Sure, I still love my Smith IO-Mags, but actually this season I picked up another pair of these because they're just so damn cheap. What I would say is if you do decide to pick these up, make sure you use the discount code for an extra 15% off. And if you are checking out Outdoormaster, I would recommend not going much cheaper down the line in the goggles because they do lose much of the tech and you start to get that plasticky feel coming in. As always, have a great season, and it can be made even better by liking, commenting and subscribing to the channel. Have a great day.